If you haven't been living under a rock for all of this season, you've probably heard of the Red Bull drama. A missed position change in Brazil, followed by some really unexpected considerations on Perez's career at the Red Bull, and the reveal of his purposeful crash in Monaco all contributed to some heat in the Austrian team. And even though now the championship is officially over and the prizes for the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships have been given out to Red Bull, things haven't calmed down inside the team. In fact, Sergio Perez is still at the centre of a big controversy and fight with his own team, and things don't look too good for the Mexican driver. So, in this video, we're going to go over what he has or has not achieved during his time at Red Bull, and how the team feels about him as a driver. So, let's begin. And make sure to stick around until the end, because things are going to get bad for Perez. It's surely no surprise that Red Bull has always expected a lot from its drivers. This is also the reason why many of them leave Red Bull, and why other ones are fired. Look at their second seat throughout the years. From 2019, which was the team's first year without Daniel Ricciardo, they've had 3 different drivers, and there have been lots of problems with all of them. First, Gasly, who was sacked after just half a year, since he was severely underperforming. Then Albon, who was sacked after a year and a half, since he was also not living up to the expectations. And then, finally came Sergio Perez. He seemed like the perfect teammate to everyone at Milton Keynes, especially after one incredible season with them, where he really showed that he could put his ego on the side to favour his teammate Max Verstappen, who was looking to win the championship. But then, things started to go downhill in 2022. He probably thought himself a bit more, and this time ended up having a purposeful crash in Monaco qualifying, which took away the 3rd grid slot to his teammate and let him have it. Of course, we've already made a video about that to explain in detail what happened in the Principality, but basically, we could summarise the situation by saying that he preferred starting in front of his teammate, even though he was at the risk of losing the championship to Leclerc. This strategy worked really well for the Mexican, who in fact won that race, and what is now considered one of the most controversial actions in the entire sport's history. So, what does the future hold for Perez? And is he going to remain at Red Bull? Well, we think so, but only for one reason. He already signed a contract until 2024. Fun fact, that contract was signed right after Perez's win in Monaco, since at the time, there was no way of knowing his crash was done on purpose. But after those 2 years are over, we will probably have to wish him the best of luck and hope that he manages to find another team to race with. This is because Red Bull isn't exactly happy with what he's done during his time at the team. Of course, he has been helpful in many situations, but the team is still unsatisfied with his performance. There are a few episodes that catch the eye when talking about Perez and Red Bull, with the most prominent one being Austria this year. In fact, there was a really controversial battle on the first few laps of the race that ended with Perez out in the gravel after trying to overtake George Russell around the outside of turn 4 of the Red Bull ring. Even though it was clearly not his fault since he left the space for George, but him pushing too hard made the two make contact, Red Bull was really critical of this move. According to Red Bull, they had told him to not try to overtake around the outside in that corner, since it is really common for drivers on the inside to overshoot it and end up taking the other driver out. The angriest of them all was Helmut Marko, who didn't hold back from criticising that move. He told the media, "We said before the start, do not go around the outside in that corner, that is not possible." Then, he also said that, "This was just unnecessary. We've seen that before, it doesn't work." After that, the car was damaged and it made no sense to continue driving. There was a lot of damage to the floor. He might have finished 2 laps behind, so it didn't make sense to continue. It was better to save the mileage. This was obviously a bit harsh on Perez, who had no fault in the accident but was still being told that he made a mistake by his team. But this is a recurring theme at Red Bull. In fact, Helmut Marko has been against Perez in many situations like this one, being a bit too aggressive with one of the best drivers on the grid for the sole purpose of making him understand that he is the second driver there. For example, another instance of Marko criticising Perez for something really dumb was at the French Grand Prix. After the virtual safety car period ended and the race began, Perez looked like he was daydreaming as George Russell passed him with ease. The thing is that it wasn't even Sergio's fault. In fact, it was all because Russell had accelerated during the VSC period, and the moment he got closer to Perez, the racing restarted, so it was all just luck. As Christian Horner said in that interview about the situation, when they released it, the VSC, Checo was right on his delta, but George had obviously backed off, and as he accelerated, he didn't break his delta. He was going 30 km an hour faster than Checo as the VSC ended. It was another 5 meters and they would have been at the same pace. It was a stroke of luck. But not everyone at Red Bull was this comprehensive with Checo. In fact, it's exactly Helmut Marko who keeps going on against him about every possible occasion. After the season ended, he started saying that Max was on a whole different level in 2022, and that not even his teammate could get to his level. Red Bull wants to be competitive again in 2023, since this season they had a lot on their side against Mercedes and Ferrari, and they'd like to still be able to dominate while all the teams are in perfect shape. Marko also doesn't know if Perez is Verstappen's best teammate for next season, since at the end of the day there were several things that he could have done throughout the season that could have granted him second place in the championship, which he missed out on at the last race of the year. Regarding that episode in Brazil, Marko openly blamed Checo for the final position he got in the race and not Verstappen, who didn't let him through. Since, according to him, it was very tight in the end, but Perez made a mistake in the first phase of the race. He pushed too hard with his tyres. At this point, it just seems like everyone in Red Bull is against him, and his future in Formula 1 will surely not continue to be with Red Bull, as another factor is playing a big role in decision-making, and that is Daniel Ricciardo's comeback to the team next season as a third driver. He is probably also putting a lot of pressure on Perez, in the sense that if he ever struggles more than the team is willing to accept, then they're going to fire him for sure. Perez doesn't seem worried about the possibility of losing his seat to the Australian though, and has told Sky Sports that, "I'm very relaxed. We live under a lot of pressure all the time. It doesn't change anything from my side." He also insisted that Ricciardo's role in the team will not just end at development for the car, but he will surely be used for show runs and events, therefore shifting the focus of his contract from third driver to a marketing stunt. That makes sense if you think about it, as Red Bull is often associated with Ricciardo, and the two make a great pair together. Of course, the fact that Ricciardo has come back has not only shown how much he's interested in remaining in the sport and still driving, but also how much he missed Red Bull during his years away and how he hopes of getting back to driving for them. It would be great news to have him come back full time, especially if at Red Bull. But sadly, that is not going to happen for a couple of years at least. For now, we'll just wait and see how he performs during demonstration runs during free practice or pre-season testing. But hey, at least that's better than nothing. And if one of the two main drivers ever gets sick or can't attend a race in 2023, it will be unbelievable getting to see how Ricciardo performs if put in a competitive car with his desired setup. Let us know with a comment below what you think of this situation, and don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Until next time.